This program is presented by ERN. Check it out at ernlive.com.
Welcome back to Street Rod and Custom Radio. Man, if you heard what we talk about on break. But I'm still with Fred Garza, and Fred is... What is your title, Fred? I should ask you that.
I am the National Sales Manager.
Oh, you're the man then. That's perfect. I got the guy. So he's a National Sales Manager for Maradyne, and they're high-performance fans. That is one of the things a lot of people overlook. But on break, you were saying chrome causes heat. And if you ever see my engine compartment... Every nut's polished, every bolt's chrome, I have stainless steel that I had chromed. That's how much of a chromosexual I am.
Well, and it looks fantastic, but it is like putting a winter coat on your engine because it just doesn't allow heat to dissipate. So nothing's coming through just the regular, metal and regular paint that you might have.
Uh-huh.
So it does create more of a heat problem having everything chromed.
Whew, but I love it. There's nothing prettier.
But we have a suggestion for that too. If you've got the biggest radiator you can, and you've got the most humping fan moving the most air you can, you're still having problems. There's still one more way to get to it, and that's to install a remote oil cooler and cool your oil, because that's the other thing that's circulating through your engine as well. And a lot of people don't think about cooling their oil. But
that's a good point.
If your coolant isn't cooling your oil for you, then run it through a remote oil cooler with a small fan, which we make those type of fans. And, in fact, we supply some of the well-known oil cooler manufacturers you might be buying from. You might be getting our Maradyne fan on there as a private label as well. So it's all good. Oil coolers do help.
We were talking about that 67 GTOs where they all ran hot. If he put an oil cooler on there, where would he jump the lines from?
I believe there are some kits that can be installed with that. When you buy a remote oil cooler, they typically have the instructions in there where you jump in and out of on the oil lines. I think it's different on different cars.
Yeah.
But I usually refer to those oil cooler manufacturers, the Duraleys, the B&Ms of the world that make those. They have the whole kit.
And that would give you more oil in the car, actually. It gives you another side area. Okay, so the GTOs, I come to you. The car's pretty much stock, okay, and I do want to throw a fan. Do you suggest leave the factory fan and add one of your fans, or what should he or she do?
I prefer you take your factory fan off and go just with our fan.
And why is that? Because it's like a tornado factor going on.
Yeah, there usually isn't enough room for both a engine-driven fan and an electric fan on the back side of the radiator, the engine side.
Okay.
And really, you always want, if at all possible, to be on the engine side of the radiator with your fan.
Is there a thing as too much fan?
No.
Okay, I knew the answer to that, but I'd argue.
Only if it's creating too much wind noise or whatever, and you find it objectionable. I always find it funny that some people complain about fan noise, but they run straight headers right off the VA.
3-inch exhaust.
I'm like, really?
and a big old what was the old noisy timing gears back in the day? Remember them loud things everybody ran? It sounded like blower motors kind of from a distance.
They did.
But okay, so on my car, I have a fan on the trainee cooler. And what I did is when I made the brackets for it, I had it where the trainee cooler kind of made it like an L bent up in the air. So my big radiator came down, and it was like a 45-degree angle. And here's why I did this, and tell me if I'm wasting my time. That little 8 or 10-inch fan that's on my trainee cooler, it blows through the transmission cooler, and that blows directly on my bottom of my radiator. My theory was with the two fans on the back of the radiator, it's that the extra fan pushing air in and more the two huge fans sucking it out. But now I'm thinking maybe the transmission, that's heat I'm throwing against the radiator. Maybe I shouldn't have done that, huh?
No, I don't think there's enough there to it's most people mount those to the frame rails or to something back in the engine compartment and blowing the hot air down towards the road. Because really, you want you want to keep the pathways to get the heat. The fans taking the heat out of the radiator and it's stuck in the engine compartment. Hopefully, you haven't packed so much in the engine compartment that the air doesn't have a good way to get out.
Right.
So hopefully, it's going to go down and under the car, and you leave the heat behind you on the road. However, I have sold little small 8-inch, 6.5-inch fans to be mounted in the engine compartment to just exhaust air out.
Understand.
That have happened before with even believe it or not, UTVs. We actually provided some fans to some military UTVs that were used on bases in Riyadh and Afghanistan and in Iraq, and the problem was these UTVs were great for running about on the base.
Mm-hmm.
They built up a lot of heat, and then it's 120 outside, and sometimes they would get hot enough to crack the blocks on those little bitty engines. And the reason was they couldn't get the air out.
Okay, so a guy like me, I think my fan's about 15 years old. It's on its last leg. It's been perfect up to life to date. Do I go out and measure it, call your tech department, and they'll have a fan to replace it?
Sure.
Okay.
That's usually what we go by. How
Okay.
big's your engine, and what is the length and width of your radiator core?
Well, I've got a 502, and I want a fan that's so noisy and it's blowing so much air that I feel it blowing on my legs when I'm standing next to the car. That's harmony.
There you go.
All right.
Well, I'd recommend our Mach 2 fan because that fits pretty much all the Tri-5 ships.
Okay, well, I'm going to get in touch with you on that one. And believe me, we take my car everywhere. If I see your fan, if that's what I run, they run. That's kind of a good problem to have. But anyway, so MaradyneHP.com is a place to go, or call 1-800-403-7953. I'll say it again, 1-800-403-7953. And make sure you look these guys up because I know there's someone listening with their cars running hot, especially in those parades, correct?
Exactly right.
All
And
right.
if you're lucky, some days when you call in on that tech line, you'll get me.
Awesome. Well, Fred, it's been wonderful, and it's always good to talk to someone that knows the ins and outs of something that scares the daylights out of me.
Well, nice talking with you.
All right.
too.
All right, brother. We'll be right back after this. You're tuned in to Street Rod and Custom Radio with your host, Dan Boots Longenette, and Ryan Baker in the Fishbowl.
This show is presented in part by E3 Spark Plugs. Born to burn. What are you running? We'll be right back.